Well, we're going to set up for Aviation Lab, and we're going to set up the experiment that's called streamlining. They measure drag of different shapes. So streamlining is the mid one of Venturi, streamlining, and airfoils. All three of those use the glorious wind tunnels made by Leibold. Very expensive. The whole setup here with all the accessories that we don't see is about $12,000. So we have to be very, very gentle and careful. Just a reminder that this base is used for the streamlining. There was a ramp base in here for last week for the other experiment dealing with Venturi. The ramp base and the flat bases, extra flat bases, are stored here. But we're going to use the flat base for this streamlining exercise. The wind tunnels are stored up here on top of the cabinet system. And we either have 2 setups, or in the future we might be doing 3. You can just check with me. Now also for this experiment we need power supply and a blower. And this was not put away well, unfortunately. It looks like things are... Oh, maybe it is okay. It just looks like this is cockeyed. It's in there crooked. I cannot tell you how expensive these things are, so we have to be very, very careful. And this power supply belongs to the older model. The newer model here uses that power supply down there. So I'm going to get out the older power supply and older fan and put those on the table. By the way, when these are stored, it's a good idea to tuck these cords underneath the fan there so that things are tucked away nice and neat, so that there's a lot more room inside the cabinet. Now this setup, it just joins very carefully here. And when you join these together, the trick is just to lift up a little bit right here, just a little bit, and then carefully glide them together. Slide. Okay. The tracks are out just because they were used this week, and the other labs, they're going to use these next week. So I'm just going to try to save time this morning. Normally we'd like to pick this up and put it away for this experiment. So we have our power supply, and I'm trying to think where I'm going to put this power supply because we've got this track here. Normally I'd put the power supply in. Well, actually, I think I'll do just that. I'll put it right where I normally do. There'll be plenty of room over here. This guy gets plugged into the power supply, but we do not plug the transformer in. The students will plug that in and they'll unplug it when they're done immediately. I know, thrilling watching these, isn't it? We're going to use the drag scale today. We've got this string here that wraps around, and as the drag occurs, this measures how many newtons of force are present. And so let's go get the drag scale. So these devices are terribly expensive. Let me pull it out so we can see it in the light. Okay, these are horribly expensive. And we want to take these apart carefully. They're simply pins. So just gently pull straight up. So these pins, this plastic will break real easy if an improper force is applied. And there's holes in the top of this thing. Okay, now we're not going to use these today, so these are just going to go back into the cabinet. I'm simply going to get 2 of these, one for each table. And then I'll carefully put these back into the cabinet, being very, very gentle with them. Okay, so we don't break anything at all. Now there were a couple boxes here that I took out earlier, and one of each of these boxes belongs at the table. So I'll bring one of these over with a cart. So the cart is going to be put up here on top, and then we've got these brackets. You can choose the shorter one or the longer one. Quite frankly, I forget which one I normally use right this minute. So we slide this in, and then we simply apply the washer and the screw, thumb screw here. And when we put this into the system, we're going to point this L forward. And so it's just going to go in like that. And this cart just slides along here. Don't even know if you can see that. I guess you can see that in the video. Slides along, and then we simply hook up the string to the hook on the front of the cart. So when the air is blowing through and we have an object on the post, it will create a drag force, and then the needle will go down measuring the drag. Okay. And these are the different objects. Each has a hole in it that they're going to put onto that post. And then we should have a cheap vernier caliper in there that allows them to measure the diameter of each of these objects. So we just leave this box here just slightly open. And next we're going to need to set up the clamp assembly for the Pitot tube. So to do this, we need the black cardboard piece, and we need the clamp. So we're going to put both of these over here. I'm used to doing this with 2 hands. A little bit easier. We'll probably set the Pitot tube about right there-ish. And we're also going to need a rod. And then we're going to need a right angle clamp. And, actually, we're going to need this clamp, and it already has a right angle on it. So that should be sufficient. My positioning is make sure this one's real tight, but just hand tight, okay? Don't crank it down with a tool or anything. And I'm just guessing on the height. We'll probably have to adjust this up once we get the Pitot tube over here. And I like to give a little space between the base of, the bottom of the base, the base of the base, and the cardboard, because we're going to try to slide the Pitot tube metal frame right underneath there and then drop this back down for weight. Okay, so let's go get the Pitot tube. You have to be very, very careful with this assembly. There's a glass ball right here and a glass tube. I've worked here since 1995, and we've never broken one of these. And when I got here, this was already very old. So it's not just me that was careful. Everybody else who's handled this has been careful with it too. Be very careful with the tube. This is just a plastic tube on the back. And I'm going to slide this here. Oh, wow. What a guess. Looks like I almost got that just right. So I'm going to position this clamp. I'm not even sure if you can see what I'm doing, but I just put the clamp on the little right angle piece right here and clamped it down. And then the idea is that we'll lower the base down just to apply a little bit of force holding down this piece. I know this is not the best setup, but it's what we have for now, and maybe I'll have changed this by the time you're doing this. So there we've got the Pitot tube, and the plastic tube is free to move around. We've got the different shapes here along with the vernier caliper, and we've set up the cart with an angle bracket down there to hold our pieces. We've made sure that the blower is plugged into the transformer. We've also made sure that the transformer is not plugged in yet. The students will do that. So there we go. That's the setup for streamlining, or the drag effect. And we either have 2 or 3 setups.